Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Sam. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Doug.
Hello.
Looks like we got us a meeting.
Looks like it.
Okay,
You heard
guys.
from Christy?
Yep, there's Bob.
I see a bunch of people there. I was trying to get a picture, didn't work out. But what we had here was failure to communicate on the town's part to us, and I don't think folks got the invitations they were supposed to. Did y'all? I know
Yeah.
Bob said he did, and I didn't get one. So.
I just found mine in the spam folder.
Well,
Yeah.
that's probably. I haven't even looked at my spam folder because I never get spam. Okay, so I guess we're ready to go at this point.
Anybody heard from Kevin or Christy?
I haven't heard anything from either.
Okay. Well, in as much as it's 6:05 and we have a quorum, we might as well get this started. First off, thank you everybody for taking the time, and I hope everybody is well and your families and whatnot are managing. I know we are. Oh, and there goes Dave rolling over. Mike, you okay?
Hope he's not driving while
There's Mike
good.
upside down. Hey, falling off the bridge, Mike. I'm supposed to record this, but there's no button down there, so we'll go without, and they'll have to yell.
I can record it if you want.
Okay, if you want, don't mind doing that.
I believe I am. Let's see. Client connection is encrypted, and I'm recording. So we'll see
Okay.
where I can find that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and we'll deal with it.
Just
They
to be
had some.
official,
They had some new process for recording, and it's.
so we'll do the roll just because that way we'll have it on record. So
Yep.
Mike Doyle is here, Doug Manfred is here, Jamie Giordano is here, David Russell is here, Bob Austin LaFrance is here. Missing at the moment are Christy and Kevin. But we have a quorum, so we'll move on.
Okay.
Do we have any citizens petitions?
I just made you co-host there, Mr. LaFrance, Austin LaFrance.
That makes me even less important.
Well, you know, live from Hollywood Palladium.
Okay, no petitions.
Let me turn off my blues here so you don't get. Okay, good.
All right, no petitions. So we'll move to minutes of the meeting from 4/2. Everybody had a chance to go through those minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion to accept, unless anybody has any additions, subtractions, or changes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
David Russell making the motion. Do I hear a
Mike
second?
Doyle, second.
Mike Doyle doing the seconding. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes pass unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to communications. Anybody within the committee have anything they want to bring forward?
No, I haven't received anything.
No, I have nothing.
I have nothing.
So,
Bob, I mean, I can share that we did get together as a naming committee for the elementary schools, and so that's in the works. We come back together May 20th to then narrow down names to hopefully put out to parents. And then we're hoping to get the survey out for themes for elementary schools prior to May 20th.
Oh, very good. That'll be neat. I'll be interested to see what they
just
come up
for,
with.
if you don't mind, just George, if you can hear me, you really don't need to be here for this meeting. I think.
Thank you. No, you're
Okay.
inviting me, so I just came in. No problem. Appreciate it.
Yep, I understand. We're not going to go into that sort of detail that you need to explain.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just for the committee's information, George is one of the consultants for technology, and we don't have a technology presentation tonight, so I would release him.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah, well,
In case anybody missed it, they decided that schools are not going to go back in session for this spring, which is going to probably have a very positive effect on what we are able to do in terms of construction on both of the sites, and probably will, Greg or we'll get into this a little further, but they're starting to look at the scheduling and revamp it accordingly. So
Yep.
may be able to pick up some time on that.
right. And we'll talk about each of those in a little bit. I think it affects more of the elementary schools, which Kelly can report on. And also Jack will be filling in for Tammy tonight.
Oh, good. Tammy's all right, isn't she?
She is, but there was a death in her family, so she's
Oh.
off on bereavement leave this week.
So we send her a card.
We certainly could, if you folks desire to do that.
Let her know we're thinking about her anyway.
Yep.
All right. No further communications. We can move to staff.
Okay, Jack, if you want to take the lead to start with on the middle schools, and then we'll go into the elementaries and then cover those things that are kind of pieces and parts afterwards.
I'd be happy to. As you probably noticed, the work continues on pace at the middle school. We do have monthly reports that, unfortunately, with this digital transition, I'm not certain whether they got to you yet or not. Rick, did those get broadcast to the committee?
I don't believe so at this point. I just got them approved. I just
Okay.
sent that back, so they should have them tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you'll all have the April reports for all three schools. I'll to introduce our project manager for the elementary, Kelly Nelly. She'll be providing the updates on the elementary project.
Good evening, everybody.
We're-
So for both elementary schools, oh, Jack, sorry, do you want me to do my update now?
No, I was going to do the middle school and then transition to you.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. We can jump ahead.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, go
Maybe
ahead,
we
Jack.
got a delay here. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit, Jack. I don't know if it's you or me.
Oh, okay. Does anybody else have trouble hearing me?
No, not right now.
No.
All right,
No.
so to be succinct, the monthly report for April, we were indicating that we are still on schedule. We are still on budget. We have been employing some COVID-19 protocols, such as observing social distancing rules, some additional sanitation efforts like wiping down of contact surfaces during the week, additional cleanings of the restrooms, and then the overall, mask and distance type of protocols. We're still maintaining a 6-day work week, and we're still maintaining progress, even though there have been some slight impacts on productivity. We did have, for a brief time, one of the subcontractors basically pulled all of their people in from the field. That was the contractor that's installing the metal panels on the exterior of the building. They are now back on site and producing. We've been tracking, we being Rick, Greg Hanover, myself, and the project executive from O&G have been meeting weekly to go over impacted items due to market conditions under COVID. A number of components are either manufactured in areas of the US and Canada that have been under our shutdown, or some of the equipment is coming from China, some of the electronics. And so we have been tracking weekly with each of the contractors their updates on the progress of obtaining those materials. Right now, there are items of work such as the installation of the door panels for the skyfolds, which are coming out of Canada, which will be delayed into sometime in the summer. We will still achieve, for the vast majority of the building, substantial completion as of the end of June. but there are some miscellaneous systems and materials that have been impacted. Um, as I mentioned, that the skyfold panels and I think some intercom system
Yeah, there's some
that are
electronics.
currently unavailable. So we're looking at alternative manufacturers. So there are miscellaneous things that are not standing in our way of opening for the start of school in August. So we're
These
encouraged
don't-
by that.
Excuse me, Jack, these don't impact or affect C of O, right?
No, they should not impact the C of O. We have talked about a workaround if there is something, for instance, for the intercom system, if that were to be delayed such that they can't have it up and running for the start date of school. We have talked about potentially obtaining some alternative intercom equipment that could be installed and then taken out when the good stuff gets here. We're proceeding with move management meetings. I think at the last meeting you were told that there was a kind of a training video for the move effort that had been produced by some Arcadis stuff, Tammy and others. That's been apparently well received and has been deemed useful. We understand that the teachers are already starting the packing at Cutler and West Side, which is a positive move. And we continue to coordinate that effort with the move manager from Arcadis, a guy named Tom Beebe. So he's got that down, and Brittany, who is part of our site team at the middle school, has been assisting him on some of those efforts to help coordinate better. Overall, I think we're, to not belabor the individual nuts and bolts of the progress of the last month, our interior work is coming along swimmingly in the academic tower. In area B, which is the cafeteria, music area, we're also getting into some finishes. The brick veneer is continuing in that area. Area C, which is the call it the kitchen and the library above, is in similar shape. And area D, the gymnasium area, is the least complete at this point, with some additional masonry work and framing going on there. But that is proceeding consistent with O&G's expectations of schedule for that part. Right now we have, as far as, again, impacted materials, the gymnasium and gym floor should be done on time, but the lockers have been delayed. It seems as though the lockers should be installed in time for school to open, in case the school wants to use that for assemblies. Even if it's not, again, it's not mission critical. It's not going to keep our certificate of occupancy from being issued. Work is progressing on the site as expected. By next week, we should be seeing some artificial turf being installed. And that work of site work and plantings, we're looking at jump-starting some of the landscape plantings to happen now in the May timeframe, so we don't have to defer it to September. So try to get it in and have the contractor begin maintaining and watering, so that we can use the summer to grow and not have to defer all of that stuff to the fall season.
One other thing that
so that's it in a
we just
nutshell.
completed.
Any questions?
Well, I was going to say, Jack, one other thing we just completed today was the scoping of the consultant or the contractor for the parking lot work at the high school. I discussed it with Sam. We could potentially, since the school is closed, potentially move that forward more quickly. So a contractor, has been selected, depending on final review by Arcadis and O&G, but the contractor was the low bidder. He's already on site. He's done some of the paving work and some of the other work on site as a sub to the site contractor. So we expect that fellow to get on soon, relatively soon. I did talk to Sam about interferences. We'll coordinate that work with him in case the school needs to have access there down that road to the big parking lot, the banana-shaped parking lot in the back, so we can make sure that access is maintained. But hopefully, if we can get that started early, we can get it in early and done. And I noticed Kevin Trejo has just joined us here.
Yeah, I don't know what's been happening, but I finally just got on.
Okay. We're just getting into the middle. Jack just gave a report on the middle school stuff, and not so much to worry about at this point.
All right, any questions from the members on the middle school?
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed there were trees on a truck for the plantings when I drove by the site today. And I'll send an email to Rick and you, Jack. And so I'd like to see some of the turf install. So I'll find out what time things were happening and just to
Yep.
see representative how it works. But I'll send you an email tomorrow with the question and then just when those things are happening.
Right. And we did intend to let you you particular, Mike, because I know you're interested. When we get to that point, I was going to send an email to Bob and to you, and if he wants to pass it on to the other members, that is being installed, because I know it's of great interest to several of us to make sure that goes in correctly, and because it is a pretty large investment for us, and we want it to be right when it goes in. So, but it will be an interesting process to see. They've pretty much finished the grading, or basically finished the grading of the stone underlayment. And we were hoping to get start with the turf, with the turf and the pad lay down this week, but they've been hampered by rain a little bit. So next week will probably be the week, and we'll let you know when they get into the process, so you can come out and take a look. I mean, it'll be limited visitation, kind of, because that's what it is. So like onesie twosies or what have you, and social distancing and all that stuff has to be observed, of course.
Okay.
Rick, my only question was, why did the one contractor doing the metal work, why did he pull his people from the field?
I think it was a COVID-19 thing. Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, that he pulled all his people back to work. I don't know that there was any other reason for that other than that consideration.
I believe the word that I had gotten, it was COVID related, and I believe he pulled his people off of all the sites that they were working on at that point in time. I think it was about a 4-week period where they were sequestering themselves to not risk any exposure of their staff.
Okay.
And they are back active in the field.
They're back on site?
Yep.
Yes.
And O&G's working on their schedule to make sure they complete when they're, or as close as they can to when they were supposed to have been completed. So,
right.
So there is positive action going forward to make sure that work gets done in a timely fashion.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. With no further questions on the middle school, I'll turn the floor over to Kelly. Kelly is now in charge of both elementary school projects. Kurt has gone on to other assignments within Arcadis, and Kelly has a staff of 2 assistant project managers that are working with her, each dedicated to one of the projects. And take it away, Kelly.
Thank you, Jack, and good evening, everybody. Sorry about interrupting before. So for both schools, we have completed the scope review process. We have a finally signed GMP executed. So we're moving along. O&G is writing contracts to all their subs and getting everybody on board. On both projects, we have tree clearing completed at Cutler, completed in Area A at Westside. So all of our ENS has been installed at the perimeter of both projects. Planning and zoning for both the city and the town have inspected it and approved it. So we're moving along with stripping topsoil for both projects, preparing the building footprint, and then next week we'll begin our rammed aggregate piers at Cutler, and then in about 2-3 weeks we'll be getting footings at West Side project in preparation for the foundation. Besides that, we are setting up our trailers. We're bringing in electrical and plumbing to the trailers, working on our building permit for West Side. We have our building permit already complete for Cutler. And then sampling for both schools for any hazard materials has been complete. We just received our sampling results for the Cutler project West Side. We got the report, we reviewed it, updated our specifications, so we know what we have in that school. And then at Cutler, we just received those, and it looks like it's very minimal. And then besides that, we are working on an alternate service entrance at Cutler for saving one of the large oak trees in the front. And that has been sent over to planning and zoning for approval. And our design team is working on a final complete design for that. And I think that's pretty much hits everything.
Yeah, just a word on the GMP. We did sign a GMP, less the abatement and demo, because we got a word from the state that there was they wanted to do something different and use time and materials on a different contract. And Jack, you can chime in a little bit because you know more information. But that part, if you will, that contract or subcontract was left out of the GMP at this point, and that money is being held aside. If we able to go forward, which I think we are with the contractors that were low bids, we'll have an amendment to the GMP plus the additional testing that was done on PCBs and asbestos may help us to even reduce that cost a little bit further. So there was a huge savings of money. We've been, Jack's been in constant communications with the state, and we have one of the contractors calls us. Of course, we can't talk to him because we don't want to foul the bid process. But it looks like that may help us in our overall construction budget to be under budget slightly, and not touching our contingency. So that will be a big thing for us once we get that done, and we'll keep you informed on where that goes.
To put some context on it, when we budgeted the work, we had a base bid and then multiple bid alternates regarding the abatement and demolition portion. And the reason we did that is because depending on what level of PCBs are in various building materials, they need to go to different landfills. And the more junk, the more expensive it is to get rid of. So our base bid was assumed on pretty clean stuff, and then we had incremental bid alternates for sort of dirty and really dirty. The reason that we're doing testing now is that by EPA protocols, once you know it's got to go, and although there's no mandatory requirement that you test, even while people are in the building, if you test it and people are there and the levels are high enough to be a concern to the EPA, then you've got to give them a plan on how you're going to get the people away from the stuff. So we did the bidding, understanding that we could buy these options if necessary. We had the testing done during roughly, the quote unquote April vacation timeframe, because when the results came back, we would have been so close to the end of the year, the mitigation effort would have been, they're going to a new school next year, there's only 6 weeks left. That's our plan. So what we've found through the testing is that there are some traces of PCBs and things in building materials on both projects. The profile is a little bit different from one to the other, but the good news is the buildings don't glow in the dark. We do not have a high hazard or a high level of material that requires the expensive landfills. And doesn't sound as though anything was a level high enough that we would have had to have gotten people out of the building anyway. So that's good news for the, as Rick said, for the budgets. When we calculated where the bids came in, of course, we look at it from the worst case scenario. And even at worst case, we were just barely dipping into contingency. Now that we don't have to go anywhere close to worst case, we should be at a position where the contingency is either touched much less or untouched, which is all very positive. So we'll be and what we'll be doing is having our ONG will be having a meeting with the low bidders. There are different contractors who are low at the 2 different schools, and finalizing that in light of the actual levels that were tested in this recent testing. It's possible that we may actually be able to go with a less stringent protocol than what was in the base bid. If that comes to happen, then we can negotiate a credit change order that will be executed basically the day after they sign the contract. So we'll sign the contract based on their base bid, but the potential exists that there may be some savings that come back right away.
And with the closure of the school, we were looking at schedules and what things could possibly happen. One thing that would be huge to help, particularly the Cutler site, would be the ability to remove the temporary classrooms. So our ability to get the general trades contractor, he's been in there taking a look at it to see what he can do, and if we can move those out sooner rather than later, that would be very helpful to us. Also, there was a requirement to there's a piece of conduit that's actually in the way, which we don't have. We can have the power service cut by the utility and now have to re-energize that. So that would be helpful to them too. It's west side would be similar. That one's not quite in the way right now. That portable, so, but we still would have the opportunity to move that out and do some other things. If you recall, we have an agreement at West Side with Pfizer. We're going to hold on to that for a while, but like all likelihood, we won't have to use that at all. We can call them and thank them and cancel that agreement someplace down the line. So the other thing at West Side is if we can get the demolition contractor on, because the kitchen's clean, and we'll talk with Human Services, who's feeding some meals out of there, see what we can do to help them do that somewhere else. Then we have an opportunity, once that contractor comes on, to do the demo of that section, which is partially in the way of the foundation for the new office space. So there are some things that we're looking at, and I know you asked the question previously, Bob. We're still looking at that and what effects it could have on the schedule and what things are smart to do and what things aren't quite so smart to do. So we'll let you folks know that as we go along. So if anybody has any questions on the elementary schools, please drive by. There's a lot of work going on, and the sites, just like the middle school site, look nothing like they did previously.
I drive by West Side twice a day, so it's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is.
I believe Mike had a question, necessarily for the elementary schools, but for the...
Okay.
Well, I think Mike had a question about the hazmat, which I hope I answered for you, Mike.
Yeah, he did, but then he had a secondary question on
change orders at the middle school.
I just want a copy of the spreadsheet, that's all. Or you can explain it too, but that's a copy of the spreadsheet would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be coming out with the monthly, right?
Yeah, we'll get something out with that.
We are,
we are in really good shape in that regard. I mean, we're probably slightly more than what we had, maybe a total of $1.5 million, but we're really still have over 8 million in contingency, and that million, of course, was for not having to buy the property, and then this is money that's maybe in the purchase. So at some point, and we've been asked again about lighting and for the fields and those kind of things, and that has still been pushed off until we get done with the project and a plan can come together and the council can make some decisions on reappropriating that money if they decide to do so. So
at the start of the project, our original owner's contingency amount was just over 5 million, 5,027,000 and change. Our current owner's contingency balance is 8,172,000. So we have taken monies from other lines and added to owner's contingency, even though we have paid for some change orders.
Right.
Our contingency balance has actually increased.
Yeah.
Great, we're saving the town so much money. We can put lights in and turf the football stadium. Well, I have to track down the task force minutes and see what they're doing with the fields thing. I didn't join it, and I haven't joined any meetings, so that's for me to do. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, you could also look at turfing the small field if it's big enough to play lacrosse or something else on for for the women or whatever. So there are other options out there someplace, but we can cross those bridges after we get done with the main span here. Okay. I don't have anything else on the schools, Jack, or you?
Now, are there any other questions regarding elementaries?
Not at the moment.
No,
All
I
right,
have,
well, we can report that FF&E has been placed on order for the middle school.
Yep.
We just got the state's sign off for the technology package for the network gear. There's a limited amount of computers. Most of the computers are coming over. So the majority of the technology purchase is the Promethean board and the network gear. And that was just, I believe the letter was dated yesterday. So that we can now procure that. There's a majority of things are being purchased off of state contracts. So Emily is working with the team at SLAM to finalize those items so that purchase order requisitions can be produced and passed on to the town and get those items rolling in the door as well.
For the FF&E, all the purchase orders have been are out to the contractors so that material, as Jack said, can start to be procured. Also, uptake a little bit on this budget. I mean, on this change of school. I did talk to the superintendent the other day and said, can we try and move up the packing at those two elementary schools or middle schools also. If we can complete that a little bit earlier, that would be huge for both of the projects to get started with the abatement earlier on and get us in a better position when it comes to the final schedule. So we are, like you said, we are working on some of those and looking at some of those things. If anybody has a suggestion they'd like to throw by us, please send an email or whatever, and I send it to Bob, and we can certainly discuss those things. But
one question, Rick.
Sure, Cam.
With packing up the middle schools to be transferred over, we're doing some of this packing early. Where are we storing it till we make the move into the middle school?
Right now, the material is staying in the classrooms. The teachers are coming in like 4, 5, 6 at a time, is from what I understand, Jamie. And if it's something different, let me know. But they're basically packing up and leaving the containers in their rooms at this point. When all the packing's done, the mover will come in, pick those up, and if the middle school is ready to receive that stuff, it'll be taken over there. If we have to store it someplace temporarily, we have funding available to do that. And so that's something that's working along the lines. Something that was being looked at also to assist the school district was trying to get some of the office space ready early, so some of the staff that's required could work there over the summer, potentially in July and August. So we're also looking at that. So basically, the packing's going on. It's going on at the library. Libraries are packing and sorting through their books and that sort of thing. The offices are doing that. There's confidential bins for them to put the confidential material in. So that all seems to be going pretty well. And our Tom Beebe, our expert from Arcadis, is right on top of that and keeping things moving along. So that seems to be going real well. Each principal, I guess, has a schedule for the teachers to come in and do their work. So, and they're also, I guess they can bring in teachers' aides if required to assist the teachers, because all those folks are on the payroll. So I think the Board of Ed has a pretty solid plan on getting it packed up.
I just put it in the chat, but I mean, obviously, Sam, you would know better about packing, but yes, they do have a schedule, so it's staggered, so it's, they're at a safe distance and not too many at the same time.
Yep.
Building.
Okay, any other questions out there?
Crickets.
Crickets?
Mhm.
Oh,
All right, do we have anything under unfinished business?
we have nothing for you, I don't believe, do we, Jack?
No, we do not.
Anything under new business?
Well, new business, we did have the FF&E, which we've just discussed. So if there are any questions that come up on that, you know, we did have some lofty goals of being able to get the teachers into the rooms to take a look at them, that sort of thing. When this COVID thing hit, that plan sort of all fell apart. Tammy did host a walkthrough of the building that shows many of the classroom and other spaces. So that was provided. That's also on our website for general public to look at. But I think that was helpful for the understanding of what they're actually going to have when they get to the new school. And as soon as we can do some of those other things in real life, we'll get back into that schedule and see what we can do to enhance the understanding of what the building is and how it's going to be operated and used by the staff and the teachers.
Rick, do we have to start training any of the folks?
They've had some walkthroughs with Sam's staff already. We haven't really done well, except for the floor. We had a nice flooring presentation training, right, Sam? But they're just getting final power, the building powered up with final power, and they'll be doing the startups on some of the high vac equipment, that sort of thing. And once that stuff gets rolling, then we'll schedule testing or training, and the training will be taped by our commissioning agent also. So in addition to having the training, they'll have a video that can be viewed by new folks or as they come on, or a refresher for the older folks that are doing the training. So that's in the pipeline. It's not quite, we're not quite there to do that yet, but
Okay.
but it'll be in short order.
Good. All right. Anybody have anything else that hasn't been covered? Any final questions? Otherwise,
What's tomorrow's
thank you.
lotto number?
6.
Thank you all for your time. I hope everybody is still in place and enjoy what little bit of sunshine we're having.
Yeah.
We will
Yeah.
talk with you between now and 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you
all.
all. Good night.
Yeah,
We'll
have a
find
nice
out
night.
if we're doing it.
We are
Thanks.
adjourned.
Good night.
Yep, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, Kevin, I would expect we're doing it this similar platform next time.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know, this is there's something that didn't quite go right at the beginning of this time, which will be better. They are actually recording these things now too, so they'll be, I imagine, on the town website at some point. So
I was just
that's-
asking, so, the next one will be the 21st, and I was being that it was the day after the 20th, if there was going to be any changes.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't catch all that.
On the social distancing, I figured it was the 21st. I was just asking if we're going to keep it this way or in person.
I imagine it'll be this way. I mean, I think the 20th was when they were going to roll out their plan, which we haven't heard yet, other than the closing of the schools. So I would assume we would remain the same, but we'll certainly let you know before that time comes. You know.
Very
Okay.
good, then.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Stay-
Stay safe, everybody.
We are adjourned.
In meeting 4.